potato. Eat a baked potato, all right. All right, so real quickly, who here is from a community? Please raise your hands. All right, of those, how many of you are interested in hosting a nuclear facility? Please raise your hands. All right, now make sure, Kara, did you get the picture? Where is it? All right, we tried to get the picture, fantastic. Our next speaker is someone that I get to use a lot of acronyms just to introduce him. I'm going to use, these are very DC words, a PDAS, I'll explain what that is in a second, and then NE1, that's a mail code, believe it or not. So our next speaker here, Dr. Goff, has been a good friend of ECA, he's been a good friend of Idaho. He runs the Nuclear Energy Office. He is the acting NE1, and he's the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary in NE1. Please join me in welcoming to our meeting Dr. Goff.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for those kind comments and for explaining what I do. It helps me to understand as well. We've got way too many acronyms and all as well. So first, let me note, it feels really good to be back in Idaho Falls. This is kind of my home, so kept my place here, so it's great to be here. And it's great to be in the city of Idaho Falls, which continues to advocate very strongly for nuclear energy. So I thank the city, but also all of the ECA communities for the strong leadership on this important topic of nuclear energy and deployment of nuclear energy. I'd also like to thank Congressman Simpson for his continued support of nuclear energy, both in Idaho and the United States at large, and really the world at large as well. I should note, he's a very challenging person to follow on a talk here, though, so forgive me, this is going to be a letdown for y'all after listening to him. But I do want to note, his leadership has truly been critical for advancing nuclear technology. So thank you for the fight, for maintaining that fight when it was not cool to support nuclear. Thanks for maintaining that, and for being a strong advocate for the national labs. They are really a lot of the backbone of the R&D, and a lot of these advanced technologies that we're looking at deploying were really developed in those national labs, so that work is very critical here. Again, I want to thank the Energy Community Alliance for organizing this annual forum and bringing us together, again, at such an exciting and critical time for nuclear energy. It was great to be with you last year in the Tri-Cities, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 days here in Idaho. I apologize, last year I think I had to leave right after my talk, so I plan to stay around more this time as well, because I do always enjoy the opportunity to discuss the future of nuclear energy. And as the Congressman said, I do view there are great opportunities here for you, for the communities, and for our nation as well. And really, I want to talk about what we're doing in the department to help that along, which really feeds on very nicely what Mayor Gary said. We are open for business, and I do kind of view that as well with the Department of Energy. We're open for business to be able to help, again, moving forward nuclear technology. We do view we need to be accelerating that. Okay, I'll note, I almost never start a talk by discussing polls, but I am going to today. 2 weeks ago, Gallup released the results of a new poll finding that Americans' support for the use of nuclear energy as an electricity source in the United States has risen 6 points to 61% since their last measurement in 2023. For those of us in the nuclear industry, you really can feel the excitement tied to the nuclear energy. But this poll shows that these feelings do go beyond just those of us working in the industry. These findings reflect what a truly exciting this time is for nuclear energy and the opportunities that lie ahead. I do feel this is really, truly a tipping point for nuclear energy going forward here. The Trump administration does have a bold and ambitious agenda to unleash American energy's dominance and to restore our place in the nuclear dominance in the energy sector. As our Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, has said, a key component of that, though, will be unleashing commercial nuclear power in the United States and also abroad as well. The revitalization of the U.S. nuclear industry was a strong focus of the Trump administration during the first Trump administration, and now we really do have the opportunity to lead again in the commercialization of secure, affordable, and abundant nuclear energy. In the Office of Nuclear Energy, we are committed to growing the supply of affordable, reliable, and secure American energy. And we are doing this in a number of ways. We're working to enable the rapid deployment and export of the next generation of nuclear technology. We're working to bring down the operating costs for the existing nuclear reactors to make nuclear energy more affordable for the American people. We're looking at expanding the application of nuclear energy beyond electricity to supporting manufacturing and industry in the United States. And we're looking into strengthening our nuclear fuel infrastructure to keep the United States energy supply secure. To make that happen, to succeed in delivering energy abundance and economic prosperity for the Americans, we need a strong community partnerships and state support. Existing energy communities know how important this work is, and they know the role energy infrastructure can play in economic prosperity for a community when there are strong partnerships with those local communities. For communities now considering new nuclear projects, let me emphasize, now is the time to be in the nuclear business. To quote Secretary Wright, America's nuclear renaissance starts now. After years of essentially little or no growth, U.S. electricity demand is forecasted to soar in the coming years, driven by consumer needs, data center growth, increased AI use, and the industrial sector's need for constant power. I do agree with what the Congressman said, that really the economic prosperity of our country is going to be largely driven by energy. And those communities that are going to grow are going to be the ones that have that excess energy to support that growing energy. Our programs in the Department of Energy are focused to help ensure that nuclear energy contributes substantially to the growth of those energy needs. Just last month, DOE reissued a $900 million solicitation to support the deployment of Generation 3+ light water small modular reactors. This funding will help spur first mover teams to deploy the first Generation 3+ small modular reactors in the United States. It will also help us establish an order book for follow-on deployments by addressing gaps that have hindered the domestic nuclear industry in areas such as design, licensing, supplier development, and site preparation. These solicitations are due today. So we are very excited to see these proposals here in the next couple of days to start seeing what are our opportunities toward accelerating. So I hope a number of the vendors and communities were involved in some of those solicitations. We look forward to looking at those here in the near future. We're also working to support the development of other advanced reactor designs, as already noted this morning, especially through the Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program, or the ARDP. Our investments in these advanced technologies is bearing fruit as developers make significant progress toward deployment. 3 weeks ago, Dow Chemical submitted a construction permit application to the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission to build a 4-unit XE100 plant in Texas in partnership with our ARDP awardee, X-Energy. In January, Kairos Power completed the fabrication and installation of the reactor vessel for its engineering test unit, which is being built to advance the deployment of their salt-cooled high-temperature reactor. And I should note, they've also received 2 construction permits from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for their first 2 prototype units. And last year, TerraPower, another of our ARDP awardees, submitted the first commercial Generation 4 reactor construction permit to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and they broke ground on their testing facility on a site for their SMR project in Kimmer, Wyoming. So these advanced reactors truly can expand the application of nuclear technology and bring nuclear energy projects to a greater range of communities and can support the rapidly growing need to power data centers. Nuclear technology really does have a key role to play in powering data centers, which could afford the important opportunities for communities interested in co-location of these assets. In fact, I'll note all of the companies that I mentioned as far as with the ARDP already have major agreements with data center companies as well to be able to move forward on those. Because these data centers really do require 24/7 firm energy to operate with extreme uptimes and the highest levels of reliability. Downtime at a data center can cost more than $8 million a day. And nuclear plants can provide the reliable electricity to meet the 5 nines energy reliability requirements of these data centers. Multiple reactor systems can provide continuous power to the data centers, even during short refueling outages that are required every few years. And smaller reactors can provide grid independence for security-critical AI data centers and military infrastructure. To that end, the Department of Energy is working to speed the commercialization of microreactors. At our National Reactor Innovation Center, NRIC, here in Idaho Falls, we're developing a test bed that we call DOME to speed up microreactor development. I'll note NRIC was established in the previous Trump administration through the passage of the Nuclear Energy Innovation Capabilities Act, or NECA. Thanks to the Congressman for helping passage of that bill as well. Having worked for more than 30 years between Argonne National Laboratory West and Idaho National Laboratory here in Idaho Falls, I was very pleased that the INL host community, Idaho Falls, was very instrumental in saving the Experimental Breeder Reactor 2, EBR2, containment structure that was shut down in 1994 so that it can now be repurposed as the DOME test bed. And in doing this, they're also lessening the environmental footprint for this testing, saving companies money in the testing process, and reducing overall project risk. Through NRIC, Westinghouse and Radiant completed front-end engineering design studies in partnership with DOE to potentially test fuel reactor experiments of their microreactors at the DOME test bed. These and other developers could begin DOME testing as soon as late 2026. DOE is also exploring opportunities to spur the expansion of civil nuclear energy. The department recently issued a request for information on using national laboratory sites and other DOE land to build AI data centers. The RFI lists 16 potential sites, including the Idaho National Laboratory and a number of the other communities here as well, and asked stakeholders to comment on siting considerations for nuclear or other technologies to power data centers. I should note, response to that RFI, if you haven't seen it, are due by May 7th. These are just some of the exciting developments and opportunities in nuclear right now. To support advanced reactor development, we're also working diligently to establish a secure domestic supply of high-assay, low-enriched uranium, or HALEU. We like our acronyms. Many advanced reactor developers will require HALEU to achieve smaller designs, longer operating cycles, and increase efficiencies. Just 2 weeks ago, we did announce conditional commitments to provide HALEU to 5 U.S. nuclear developers to meet their near-term fuel needs through the HALEU Availability Program. And this was providing material from the Department of Energy from our stockpiles to be able to help fund some of those help support some of those initial demonstrations. The allocated HALEU will support the ARDP Pathway 1 award recipients and companies planning to demonstrate in the DOME test bed and some of the other ARDP risk reduction awardees. We also hope to make more award announcements in the near future as well. We've also seen progress on historic restarts of nuclear plants. Just last month, Secretary Wright announced the second loan disbursement to Holtec for the restart of the Palisades nuclear plant. I got to admit, having worked in this area for almost 40 years, I never thought I'd see us restarting plants. That, to me, is just very exciting that we're actually looking at restart of plants. So that one plant there, should note, will enable that community to retain 600 high-quality American jobs in Michigan and provide another 800 megawatts of affordable, reliable energy. And of course, I can't, mention nuclear restarts without talking about 3 Mile Island as well. In September of last year, we were pleased that Constellation Energy announced that it had entered into a 20-year power purchase agreement with Microsoft and would restart the 3 Mile Island Unit 1 reactor as the Crane Clean Energy Center. And Constellation has set a 2028 date as the proposed restart period. So many states and communities have already recognized the important role of nuclear projects could play in offering families and businesses affordable, reliable, and secure energy with the added benefits of high-paying jobs, increased tax revenues, and economic activities. There are a lot of new and exciting nuclear developments happening at the state level. In Tennessee, in Indiana, in Texas, Utah, Virginia, just to name a few. which is why the Office of Nuclear Energy remains committed to partnering with our national groups that work on state energy policy, such as the National Governors Association, which this year will provide 7 in-state retreats to advance nuclear energy policies in various states across the country, including Washington, Indiana, Missouri, Kentucky, Louisiana, West Virginia, and a consortium of New England states. We also work with the National Legislative Working Group, which is managed by the National Conference of State Legislators. We also work with the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners, which we're finding that is more and more an important group to work with as areas are looking to try to add more nuclear capacity in the areas. I should note also that our experts from the Department Gateway for Accelerated Innovation in Nuclear, or GAIN, have been providing a lot of technical expertise, maybe to some of you community, or some of those folks in your communities as well. And I think they have been very instrumental in moving forward the discussion on nuclear, and they've been doing a lot of work with the National Association of State Energy Officials as well, which just launched a multi-state collaboration called the Advanced Nuclear First Mover Initiative, which is again aimed at expediting new nuclear deployment. So many nuclear developers are also noting the importance of working at the state and local levels to keep their reactor projects on track for commercial deployment. One example of this, which within this local community as well, is, Oklo recently signed an agreement with Idaho National Laboratory as part of its effort to deploy their reactor here in Idaho. Through this agreement, Oklo will also be working with INL and DOE to prepare site characterization field work, including doing a comprehensive cultural and biological surveys conducted in partnership with the local Shoshone-Bannock tribes and the surrounding community as well. This agreement is a proactive strategy aimed at helping them address environmental and regulatory requirements with state and community support to minimize potential delays to the project going forward. And I think that is very important to have that community engagement going forward and the state engagement as well. I should also note, I have been focusing on the advanced small modular reactor space, but I do also want to highlight the Westinghouse AP1000 progress, which has their 2 units that recently began commercial operations in Georgia. I was able to attend the celebration for the completion of these 2 units last year, and I can really say this design truly is ready for deployment now. In fact, I should note those plants in general, even though they're first-of-a-kind kind of deployments, that fleet of reactors right now is running at capacity factors around 92% already. So I should stress, there are a number of technologies providers in the room today. I apologize. I know I always leave out some companies, so I'm going to go ahead and apologize up front. Sorry I haven't mentioned every company that we work with. But I encourage you to engage with them and learn more about the untapped benefits of advanced nuclear technology. I would also like to highlight our important work on the international front. I know ECA has been already carrying out important work with communities internationally, and we noted some of the international partners that are here today as well. As global energy demands continue to grow, America must lead in the commercialization of affordable and abundant nuclear energy internationally as well. Should note, last month I did visit the United Kingdom, where together with industry partners led by the Nuclear Energy Institute, we held a very successful commercial nuclear energy mission. Went on to the Netherlands after that as well. I highlight this engagement to emphasize the importance and continued need for technical and information exchanges with established and embarking nuclear countries. We view the order book for U.S. reactors to include the deployment in the United States, but also in our allies and partners. And that order book is really critical as we want to get nuclear costs to where we're paying for nth-of-a-kind reactors, not first-of-a-kind reactors. Looking ahead, we really only see an increase in both the domestic and global demand for nuclear energy. As such, now is the time to accelerate our efforts in each of our communities to advance nuclear energy. I look forward to working with each of you to unleash American energy and prosperity through affordable, reliable, and secure nuclear power. With that, I'd like to once again thank ECA for the opportunities that you've helped create through events like this, and I look forward to the discussions and conversations today. So thank you very much. And I'm fine with your questions. I'll let you decide how much.
Great. Are there any questions for Dr. Goff?
Yes, Doctor. We are very interested in people that manage the grid. They tell us, well, we don't care what the source is, as long as it's 11 cents per kilowatt per hour, which a lot of these new designs will not meet due to cost overruns and new technology. How do you feel that the Department of Energy can help us or help them in order to get off the ground and do one of these and make it cost effective?
In general, what we have been doing is trying to, again, kind of what I was saying there at the end, get to where you're paying for the nth of a kind reactor, not the first of a kind. So on these projects, whether it's through the Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program or the Gen 3 Plus, we're doing that public-private partnership so we can help de-risk on that first build. You know, because we do recognize the first of a kind, and really probably, depending on the reactor size, until you get a little bit down that learning curve, it's going to be more expensive. So that's really why on our Gen 3 Plus solicitation, it wasn't just looking at a build one place. It was also looking at the plan for the company and whether it's the power producers or the vendor, to show that they are developing an order book. So it's really trying to help not only on that first build, but help set up an order book so you can start bringing that cost down. Because I think that is critical. We've got to get to the nth of a kind. Now, I will note, one thing that we have a little bit of an advantage that's changed some is with the data centers. Because some of those data centers, they don't want to pay exorbitant rates, but they are willing to pay some premium because they, again, want to have very firm, 5 nines reliable electricity. So some of them are working at, again, to see how they can help pay premiums. So one of the things we have done over the last year or so is been working with, through some convenings, working with utilities and the buyers of power to try to see what kind of mechanisms can be set up. I mean, typically in the past when a utility is going to build a plant, they'll go to the Public Utility Commission, identify the need, and look at rolling that cost into the rate base, and they just roll in the whole cost. We're trying to see, again, how can they start the buyers that need this firm power pay some upfront to help lower down some of those costs so that all of the ratepayers aren't having to necessarily pay the increased cost. But again, the key thing, though, is we've got to get down the cost to the nth of a kind pretty quickly here.
Great. Well, the next speaker's coming up. So just to follow up on that, so when UAMPS was moving its project forward, one of the key pieces was recognizing that the federal government is the largest purchaser of power in the United States. And Idaho National Laboratory actually stepped up and said, we're going to actually take part of it for research, but they were also going to purchase power from that. And so NE was very supportive. But when they went to NNSA and some of the other parts of DOE, they weren't supportive because they said, well, the cost of power is maybe a little bit more, even though you can get it to us. Is there a thought, again, to look at the federal government, or how do we get the federal government to, again, look at potentially being one of the purchasers of some of this power, especially maybe the initial or even the nth of a kind?
Yes, I will say there is a lot of thought on that, again, to how do we, again, through our power purchase authority, not just Department of Energy, but other portions of the government, be some of that first mover. Yeah, we did have some battles, and there'll still be some battles on, again, do you have to just use low cost, or can you pay a premium for the fact that you need that reliability and all as well, and you need to be able to pay for that if you need it. So yes, there are continuing discussions, how can we use the government more to help? And I'll note again with the RFI that we put out as well, that's one of the things the government's putting forward, again, our land. How can we use the land? Obviously, UAMPS is looking at using that land as well, but looking at, again, using the land even for the data centers and the power source there as well. So we do want to try to do whatever we can to help accelerate this deployment here. Because we do view it truly is a national security issue. The energy itself, but also the data centers. It's critical we keep the data centers on shore as well. So.
You talked, and I'm sorry, I'm Danny Carroll, I'm a state senator from Kentucky. You talked a little bit about the cost of the reactors, the technology themselves. The process to get to that point is also very expensive, and I think it's $75 million for an early site permitting process. What do you see will be done in the future to help in that area? As we have utilities within our state that are considering it, that have the capabilities to do that, that is one of their concerns. And then also with the cost recovery, that's a state issue in us allowing that. But there just seems to be a dam that's kind of blocking, things moving forward. We really need to identify what that is and how we can get around that to get it started. And then I think once that happens, I think it's going to move fairly quickly. What are your thoughts on that?
Agree. Now, I know this is not looking forward, but on that Gen 3 Plus solicitation, there were two tranches of money for that. There was $800 million that was going toward up to 2 Gen 3 Plus deployments, but there was also $100 million that focused on just what you said. It could be used for early site permits. And again, you're trying to look at it to help the overall order book. But yes, that solicitation out there, which again, closed today, so it doesn't help, doesn't help tomorrow. But that was specifically focused on early site permits and DOE doing a public-private partnership to help on that. Now, whether we have done some of those in the past. In fact, I think the TVA Clinch River site was done through a public-private partnership with the department doing that early site permit. That's something else we can look at, doing again in the future as well.
Any other questions?
Great. Thank you, Dr. Goff.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.